I'm Sarah Bivens.
And I'm Matthew Bivens.
We had a home birth back in 2016.
So we started a podcast about it.
And then grew it into a birth brand to help future and current parents believe in their success with home birth.
This is the place to hear home birth stories along with helpful resources and tips to feel empowered and supported in your birth journey.
This is Doing It at Home.
Welcome home. Welcome back to the podcast. Today's episode is talking about stress and anxiety in pregnancy and postpartum with Nathalie Walton, the CEO and co-founder of Expectful. Expectful is a meditation and mental health app for before, during, and after pregnancy. And we've been friends with the folks over at Expectful for a few years now, so we're really excited to team up with them for this episode to bring this important conversation and these important topics to light. So in this conversation, we talk with Nathalie about some of her own personal journey of her pregnancy and the stress around that and how that led her to finding Expectful as a user. And then through the course of that, how she and the team over at Expectful, how they are providing solutions for combating that stress and anxiety that comes up in pregnancy and postpartum. Maybe you can relate. Maybe you've struggled with stress and or anxiety in pregnancy or postpartum. And if you have, let me just say you are certainly not alone. More than 40% of women actually struggle with anxiety in some shape or form in pregnancy and postpartum. So some of the things that we talk about to bring education and empowerment to this topic is we talk about the scientific evidence of how meditation improves pregnancy outcomes and what Expectful is specifically doing around this, and the prevalence of stress and anxiety in pregnancy and postpartum, ways to incorporate a mindfulness practice to support that, especially if you've struggled with cultivating a mindfulness practice in the past. And Expectful has created multiple avenues for incorporating mindfulness, meditation, community, and support all within their platform. From courses in hypnobirthing to addressing mom guilt, fitness events and classes and lactation support, and so much more. Plus, they have an extensive library of meditations that can walk you through every single day of your pregnancy journey. And there's even meditations focusing on preconception, postpartum, and loss. I can speak personally to this. This is a personal topic for me as well, particularly as it relates to healthy habits, balance, mental health. I'm using Expectful in my own pregnancy journey right now, and that comes up in our conversation as well. And there's actually a moment I get a little emotional talking about just how the practice has supported me so much when those stressors come, because they come. So I'm so grateful to Nathalie and the team at Expectful for partnering with us for this episode, supporting the show. And we have a special treat for you listeners as well. You can get 25% off an annual membership to Expectful when you use the code DIAH25 off. So that's DIAH25OFF. And use that when you go to Expectful's website, and you'll get that 25% off the annual membership. And I have that in the show notes for you, along with a link so that you can get there and find everything that you need. Thank you so much again to Nathalie. Really excited for you to hear this episode. Here it is. Hi, Nathalie. Welcome to Doing It at Home.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
We are too. I think, one, this is such an important conversation we're going to be having, and it affects so many. And then also, I just really appreciate the relationship we've been able to have with Expectful over the years, and just kind of watching each other grow on both sides, and then to also have personal connection. And, now with us being pregnant, and, we'll talk about that and how that all ties in. But to have personal experience with Expectful too, this feels, very aligned and very, in the center of everything that's going on with Doing It at Home right now. So this is awesome.
I could not agree more.
Great. So some of the things that we're going to get into today, just kind of to preface, stress and anxiety in pregnancy and postpartum, really, really important conversations. And I think they're coming out more and more, and we're having them more, but wasn't always talked about. I mean, we can go back probably just one generation, and it was not something spoken about very much. So to shed light to it, to talk about it in a safe space, and also to talk personal stories and science behind the importance of mental health, particularly in, before, during, and after pregnancy. And then we're also going to share, real life, tangible action items that women can start incorporating into their daily lives to help with all of this, with the stress and anxiety. So is there anything you would want to add to that or kind of expand upon kind of as we go on this journey?
I think that is a great summary of the conversation.
Cool.
And just, it's so important to talk about stress and anxiety in pregnancy and beyond, because it's something that we don't talk about enough, and it's very normal. So I'm excited to dive in.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that we're creating a space for people to listen in on a conversation like this, and then, think about for themselves how they have been handling stress and anxiety, the ineffective ways or effective ways, and then to have tools and things that they can use moving forward. So it's going to be a great conversation.
Yeah. And, we're so much about the power of women and their stories. And so I think it'd be great to start with you, Nathalie, on, some of your own personal journey and how it led you to Expectful and the impact of that on your own pregnancy.
Absolutely. So I was pregnant with my son, my only child, in 2019. And I'm one of those people, like all of your listeners, that just heavy into the research, doing everything right. And I thought I was having a great pregnancy up until my 20-week scan, at which point I was told that I was at high risk for preterm labor and that I could potentially deliver my child at any day. And the risk of that coming to you at week 20 is that, there's a certain period where if you deliver too early, it's not really viable. And I went from being quite calm and confident to being incredibly stressed out. I went to living my pregnancy in days rather than weeks. So it's like, if I just get to 24 weeks in one day, I have a better shot at delivering than I did yesterday. And so, as you can imagine, that created a lot of stress. I also was going pretty much daily to the hospital for the NST test, the Doppler test, and just not knowing what would happen to my pregnancy created so much stress in my life. And one of the ways I was coping with it, I had many ways of coping with it, which I'm happy to discuss, but one of them was actually just scrolling on Instagram, which is not healthy, and I don't recommend that. But 2 years ago, when doing scrolling on Instagram, they knew exactly what I needed. And I found an advertisement for Expectful, which at the time was a meditation and sleep app. And I downloaded it and I started doing Expectful, and I got really into hypnobirthing. And within a week of really diving into these meditations and hypnobirthing, I actually stabilized, which was pretty incredible. So I mentioned I was going in daily to the doctors, looking at my NST test, and they've been gradually getting worse and worse. But then it got to a point where it's like, oh, okay, I think, we might make it. And lo and behold, I made it to term. I made it to 38 weeks and 1 day, which was something that none of my doctors thought was possible. And I really credit that to cultivating this mindfulness practice during pregnancy. And it's amazing because we now have the science to show that actually that's quite possible.
What was it that drew you initially to the Expectful app and mindfulness in general? You said that you had several things that you were doing to cope with the stress and anxiety, but what was it that drew you there specifically?
Yeah. So I've actually always had a mindfulness practice. I started meditating over 20 years ago. And I can't say I was meditating well, but I've always had a meditation practice. And there was something that I had read about hypnobirthing and the impact of mindfulness. So my intent was always to have an unmedicated labor. And I had done a lot of research and read that doing hypnobirthing, really strengthening your breathing, can aid in having an unmedicated labor. And so I thought, let me dive into this. And so there was something about Expectful and that hypnobirthing aspect that I thought, okay, maybe this is an easy way to figure out what at the time seemed like an intimidating concept.
Mm-hmm. And where else was the stress that you were experiencing? Is that increased? I can only imagine on a daily basis to be kind of going through that mental gymnastics. Where else was that showing up in your life? Because I have to imagine it was connected to other things. So I'm asking because for those who might be experiencing stress in other areas, they may not be making the connection, and they might not be seeing that by having a mindfulness practice, not only can it assist with that thing, like the squeakiest wheel right now, but that it's also connected to your pregnancy, that it's also connected to your birth and beyond.
Yeah, I mean, the stress was showing up in so many ways. Like it was showing up in my relationships. I was, probably a little bit irritable and snappy. It was showing up in my sleep. Sleep was a big one for me. It's because I was constantly thinking about like, oh, am I okay? Are we going to make it to tomorrow? It impacted my sleep. And that's something that we see is that stress, like when you're very stressed out, it's difficult to sleep. And then the last I would say is just like physically, like, just tension in my body. That was something that I could also feel. It's just like the weight that I was carrying, and I really just needed a way to release it.
Mm-hmm. I just think it's incredible that through your own personal experience and a scroll on Instagram, you come across Expectful, become a user. And then, as we unpack more of this, now your role in Expectful and what you're doing, you're at the helm of it. I just find that incredibly inspiring. And I just love that connection there and that personal story aspect to it, that just how it all came together. It's really kind of beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, it's quite incredible. So when I was on maternity leave, I had just gone through this really life-changing experience, and I had this opportunity to advise Expectful, and I'm like, I just learned so much, and I want to give back to other women. Like I want to help other women. And that advisory role turned into me taking over the company as a late-stage co-founder and CEO. And just given everything that I had been through, so some of the things that I used to help me get through this was also fitness. So I had an amazing prenatal yoga coach. I used acupuncture and developed breathwork, and also just sought out a lot of resources to help me get through this. And my first goal in coming to Expectful was like, I wanted to create this resource for women, the things that helped me and so many other women get through pregnancy and postpartum, because it was really, I live in San Francisco, where I think we tend to be a little hippie perhaps in nature. And a lot of these tools were accessible for me, but they were, even where I live, they were difficult to find. And so I knew that they would be challenging for everyone, across the world. And our app is global. We have users in Namibia and Australia. So I knew that I wanted to create this one place online where you could access all of these tools. And so that's what I built. Is I built a platform where we have over 50 live classes a month, ranging from prenatal fitness classes to womb healing for if you have gone through a miscarriage or grief, and also office hours with lactation consultants, infant sleep specialists, nutritionists, all of the things that you need to have that happy, healthy pregnancy and postpartum period.
Yeah. So there's tools to use. And I'm also hearing there's the community piece as well. And then the content itself has broadened and expanded to serve the continual phases and journeys and possibilities and variations of normal. So you can, come and experience it yourself, but then you can also connect more, and you can also get more education, resources, empowerment around whatever particular path you might be on.
Exactly.
So one of the things you mentioned a little while ago was, we have facts, we have, scientific research and evidence behind how mindfulness practices, specifically meditation, can improve conditions, outcomes in pregnancy and in birth. Can we talk a little bit more about that and how, Expectful specifically addresses this and masters this?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are 3 studies that I want to mention because they're so helpful, and I know that they can help so many women. So the first study, and this study used Expectful. Expectful was given to pregnant women. And this study was published in the Journal of Midwifery and Women's Health earlier this year. It found that women who used Expectful in pregnancy, so building that mindfulness practice, using Expectful's meditation, actually saw their stress reduced by 25% in pregnancy. That's your perceived stress scores. And that was taking out for in terms of any confounders. And so it was actually using the app led to the reduction in stress. And that's where my story comes in. So perinatal stress is linked to a whole host of outcomes, but one of them, negative outcomes, but one of them being preterm labor. Yeah. And so, that's for me how the reducing my stress was really key to helping increase getting to term. Another study that I think is interesting, and this actually doesn't use Expectful, but it uses a meditation practice in pregnancy. And this was published recently in UCSF, found that mothers who meditated in pregnancy, their babies saw improved responses to stress in the period following birth. So it's they were meditating and helping improve their babies. Oh, wow. Their response to stress, which I thought wow. What an incredible study. We all want to do whatever we can to give our babies the best start in life. And I thought that was really neat. And then the last study, and this is so near and dear to my heart because I was a NICU mom and I was also one of the mothers. 92% of women struggle with breastfeeding in the first week of life. And I was one of those. I was really struggling. And this was a study that was published in the Journal of Perinatology. NICU mothers that were pumping were given Expectful. Okay. And those that meditated on a regular basis using Expectful saw 7.5 more ounces of breast milk production a day. Wow. 7.5. That is, I couldn't even really get an ounce. And so to get 7 times that just by meditating, it just shows you the science that actually turning that stress off in your mind, it can do wonders.
Absolutely. That's amazing. The impact that reduction of stress has on mom, on baby, and then on the things that help mom support baby. And I believe it. Absolutely. Stress does so many things. It wreaks so much havoc in the body. So using Expectful to develop that mindfulness, that meditation practice, the breath work, hypnobirthing, all those different things. It's incredible how it just has an impact across the board.
I'm just floored by that in an awesome way. And not that it doesn't seem possible to me, but just how incredible and what we can have access to within ourselves to do this. And we don't have to, go to a mountaintop in the Himalayas to do it, or, spend tens of thousands of dollars on, some personal transformation week. Those things are great. Yet, a more grounded approach is so doable, and it's right there for us to grasp. And this is so relevant for me personally right now, being pregnant with our second, and meditation is a practice. I'd kind of, you mentioned maybe wasn't meditating as effectively as you could be. I've definitely dabbled over the years, and I feel like I really hit my stride in the 6 to 8 months before conceiving. And I really had my practice down. I really could drop in, and then becoming pregnant, and life shifts up a bit, and that's when those things can slide too. And I noticed that happening. And then it's just natural, it's not personal. By having a baby, it magnifies everything in your life and it pulls on your bandwidth. It's a beautiful, miraculous thing, and it pulls on your bandwidth. And so that's something to recognize and to acknowledge. And so I kind of felt some of it slipping a little bit here and there. And so what I love about Expectful as I'm using it currently is that reminder, and that it can be in these incremental small doses, one step at a time, and to maintain the practice that I built to help me be where I am. This is not the time to drop it. This is the time to dig in even further, because, there's going to be a baby soon at the other end of this. And so it's really poignant for me, just all of these reminders, and then also just to that it doesn't have to look one way. Everyone's meditation practice can be different. And that's one of the things I love as a user, that in there you can find what works for you and tailor it to whether it's time-wise, whether it's where and when you do it. That's one of the things I really appreciate about it as well.
I'm so happy to hear that. I mean, you're right. We have meditations that are as short as 5 minutes. We have much longer for people that like to meditate as part of a community. We have those live events, and the recordings are available for a week after the live event. And so really we've catered it such to make it easy, because I know how challenging it is. I think one of the things I'm most proud of that we've recently built is we have now daily meditations from like when you're trying to conceive. We have meditations for your cycle, even if it's irregular, or even if you're doing assisted reproduction. Mm-hmm. Then from the day you find out you're pregnant, we have a daily meditation that is like catered to exactly where you are in your pregnancy journey. And we have that for 42 weeks. Hopefully, people aren't going to 42 weeks, but if you are, we have that. And we also have the first 100 days postpartum. And so these were written with people that are experts in the space. Most of them, if not all of them, are mothers. Yeah. And so they know what you might be experiencing in that moment. And so we really do try to make it easy. And on top of that, I'd say, like for postpartum, we have nursing meditations, we have pumping meditations. If you think about what you often do when you're nursing or pumping, like you could be zoning out. It's like, what a better way to take care of yourself than, just meditating for 5-10 minutes while you're doing that activity. We even have stroller meditations and walking meditations too.
In replacement, or maybe before the scroll. Because when you are nursing, I remember those late nights of nursing and stuff, like, what else are you going to do? So the phone's there, you start scrolling on the phone. And so maybe you could still do that. But why not put a meditation in there too? If you're kind of trapped in all senses of the term for a period of time, why not, give yourself that space? So I love that. And there is something really special, I will say, about having meditations very specific to where you are. That feeling I get when I open the app and I see, the 18 weeks, 2 days, it's like, oh, it's for me. I feel very understood. I feel very seen right now. Someone else has been here. Someone else is here right now. I appreciate that custom aspect to it, and that just feeling very, very held in that way.
I'm so happy to hear that.
One of the things that you all have done really well, because I peek over Sarah's shoulder, and I've gotten into the app as well. It helps people to get in where they're most comfortable.
Yeah.
The meditations that relate to the specific day, if you've never meditated before, you can find what day you are in your pregnancy and jump in there. But then also, like you said, Nathalie, there are meditations that are shorter, and meditations for these different experiences that the individual might be going through, whether it's trying to conceive or, nursing or pumping. So that helps people to be able to get in. It helps moms to be able to get into building a meditation and mindfulness practice, because like you mentioned, it is a practice that you're wanting to build, regularly using it. As you mentioned, those studies, when people were regularly meditating or using the app, they saw the benefits. So I love how you all created this app with that in mind, to help people to get started and then stay with it so that they can experience the full benefits. It was just very, very smart how you all put this together.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate that. I mean, to your point, we do have very specific meditation collections for depending on what you might have gone through. So we have collections for people that are over 35. I'm over 35, and I know that being, it's a different experience. And we have collections for mothers that are having rainbow babies. We have a Black Mamas Meditate collection for some of the inequities that Black women might face. So really we have couples meditations, and I think one thing that I haven't spoken about is we also have a whole section of courses. So like our hypnobirthing course is actually our most popular course on Expectful, and it makes hypnobirthing so easy. Like when I did hypnobirthing, or when I first found out about it, it was like I had to download MP3s, and I really felt like I was in 2007, like trying to connect these MP3s and like, how do I get them on my phone? Yes. But like we just have an auto course, and it is so easy. And on top of that, we have courses like mom guilt, how to return to work, how to lactate, like how to build a lactation practice. It's like on top of meditations, we also have like pretty useful courses that will help women out no matter where they are in their journey.
Yeah. And hypnobirthing is big in our community. I'd say we hear about it in more than half of the conversations that we have, that they're utilizing it. So to have it in a very comprehensive kind of one-stop place that also includes everything else that we've talked about, it's, kind of a no-brainer to add that to the toolbox.
Yeah. No, and actually, I think for us, one of the things that's helpful is because it's a hypnobirthing class. It's also HSA, FSA eligible for people that are in pregnancy that will pay our subscription. So that was when I learned that, I was very excited.
Yeah. So I'm thinking about now the listener, the mama out there who maybe hasn't had any sort of meditation practice at all and is hearing all this and is just wondering, okay, where do I start? How do I incorporate mindfulness practice into my life? And even if they haven't done it before, but maybe they haven't struggled with it, maybe whether it's even calling it meditating, or they've set these like time parameters around it, or they have to be in lotus position, or, whatever. Well, how can we help them? Because all these things that we've talked about, you've listed the studies, we've talked about the benefits, anyone would subscribe to that option, right? So how can we just help guide them a little bit more towards that?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. Meditation could be intimidating for some, and I understand why. I mean, my recommendation is download the app. It's we have a 7-day free trial and a discounted code with doing it at home. But if you're trying to get started, maybe the best way is to do it before you go to sleep. So I still take naps on the weekends with my son. And I mean, he's now 2 years old, but I remember in that postpartum period where I just was not sleeping at all. And what I would do is I would pop on a meditation. We have like these cat nap series that are designed for, moms that are or parents that can only take cat naps.
Yeah.
And I would listen to these meditations knowing that I might only have 20 or 30 minutes or maybe even 10. And I would put it in and I would relax. And I'd often find myself like falling into the deepest of sleep.
Yeah.
But it was so restorative, just like given the state that I was in, that I like had the energy to continue on. And so if meditation seems really intimidating for you, like, lay down in a bed somewhere where you're comfortable, pop on your headphones and listen to a calming meditation. I mean, they say you're supposed to sit. Who says you're supposed to sit? Like oftentimes people sit, but like you can lay down, you can meditate while you're walking. As I mentioned, you can meditate while you're nursing. And I just recommend setting like timers and reminders, like you mentioned. It's helpful to build a habit, but I hope, and I think that we have at Expectful designed it so that you could just drop in to like really what is most comfortable for you.
Mm-hmm. Those are great tips. I love that.
Can you speak a little bit more about the courses? We touched about it a minute ago. And you mentioned that the hypnobirthing course was most popular. What are some of the other popular courses that are on Expectful?
Yeah, so we have a course called Mom Guilt that is also very popular. I mean, as mom, like I oftentimes, I mean, our team at Expectful, we are all moms, and I have someone that just came back from her maternity leave with her number 2, and she was saying like, I just have all this mom guilt because I didn't get to spend as much time with my second child as I did with my first. And I hear this all the time. Like, we just feel so guilty about everything. And this is a course that kind of helps us process that guilt and release it. We have a course of like how to return to work if you are a working mom. And I know that is like a really challenging, I mean, it's an incredibly challenging thing to do. Yeah. And we have over a dozen courses and for every segment. Like if you're trying to conceive, we have courses for that. We have courses for motherhood. We're coming out with a lactation we have lactation consultants that have built a course for us on how to feed. And on top of that, not necessarily course related, we also have like all of these fitness events. So, and videos. So if you're like interested in prenatal yoga or even postnatal yoga or any type of fitness, you could give that a try too. So I really wanted to create that one-stop shop for pregnant women and people trying to conceive and new moms.
Yeah, that's a great way to describe it. The one-stop shop. Because you really can go there and get so many things to help you connect with yourself, help mama connect with herself, and connect with community. And I believe, Sarah and I believe that connection, with huge. Self and others is so, so important throughout conception, pregnancy, birth and beyond. And you all have done a great job with that.
I'm so incredibly inspired by everything that you're doing. And it just makes me even more excited hearing more of the personal backstory and connection, the team, everything that goes into it. It's just so consciously designed and executed and continues to evolve, as you have more users, as you get feedback, as you all have your own experiences too on the team and like, oh, we should address this. It creates for me, especially now, again, like as a mom, pregnant again, I don't know if I'm just in the feels thing here, but it makes me feel better about using something like this because of everything that's behind it, because of everything that goes into it. I feel more connected to it. I feel more connected to you. And we need more of this. And just to hear the results already that Expectful has been able to create worldwide, I'm just also very excited to see how it continues to impact motherhood, the experience of it, how we hold it. And then, this is the kind of stuff that can have impact, globally and in policies and all of it just by having moms who are reducing their stress, improving their outcomes, feeling better about themselves, setting up their children to have better coping skills and mechanisms like that has huge ripple. Like we're talking, global impact here. So I'm just, that was my long-winded affirmation to you and everything that Expectful's doing.
Well, thank you. I'm so happy that you are using it as a user and enjoying it. Like that is what I love to hear. I speak with hundreds of our users and I love getting user feedback because I do take that and I build out. I've had users that we've had users that have benefited from Expectful in the most amazing ways. Like we've had people that were in abusive relationships and they leveraged Expectful to overcome that period, which I can only imagine being pregnant in an abusive relationship. And so we created a course called Giving Birth After Trauma and other feedback. We have an entire section for loss and healing on miscarriage. And oftentimes I think like a topic now is having to terminate for medical reasons, a terminated pregnancy. And that was something that we didn't have coverage on. And so we created that. And so I love hearing user feedback and just talking to users because what no pregnancy is like another pregnancy, and everyone goes through their own unique experience. And my goal is to have that entire showcase that experience. In fact, we also have that in shared stories too, which I don't know if you've checked out, but we now are showcasing stories from all of our users, and we're trying to illustrate the rainbow of experiences that you can have in trying to conceive and postpartum.
Well, we love stories here, so I can imagine there are a few ears that have perked up at that. But really, I mean, the entryway can be anything from you just want to chill out, you want to relax a little bit, maybe you're into fitness, yoga, etc. You want one of the courses, you want access to that. It's like whatever the entry point is, go there for that and then see what else is possible as a result and see what other results you can experience, from that. So
I want to say real quick, we were talking a moment ago about impact. I've experienced the impact from you, Sarah, using Expectful and continuing to cultivate your meditation practice. Because, here we are almost halfway through the pregnancy. And we're in the middle of summer, and our schedules have been thrown for a spin with Maya and her schools and things changing. And there's been areas in our home that typically are orderly, which haven't been, our dishes, our laundry. And in the past, that is something that would have created more anxiety and stress for you. And I have very specifically noticed how you have just been more relaxed and more just okay with however things go and in more flow. And to me, that's a direct result of resuming the morning meditation practice that you had for a while, but you've resumed it and resumed it using Expectful. So I'm just saying, from my perspective, from the dad's perspective, partner's perspective, I see the impact and I feel the ripple from you continuing to cultivate and build that practice.
Yeah,
so
everybody wins.
Yeah, so there's a user story from 1 degree separation.
Well, I'll actually add one more bit to that, because I do think this is relevant, and that, this could be a testimonial shared story example. But we did have something over the weekend that kind of threw me for a loop, stress-wise. And it was something that was a similar circumstance to something I experienced in our first pregnancy. And so having it come up, I could literally feel the visceral, guttural anxiety in my body, like my stomach feeling tight, my chest tightening. And I just thought, oh, I do not like this. And I don't want to go there again. I don't want to handle it how I handled it, in the first pregnancy. And it was not what I wanted to do in the moment, because I just wanted to be frustrated and I wanted to go through my stuff. But I sat down, I created a quiet space for myself. Matthew knew, he created the space for me. He and Maya went and hung out together, and I pulled up the app, and there was something very specific about being tailored to pregnancy, than if it were any other meditation or just ambient music or something. That still would have been nice, but to have it, to bring it to this circumstance was very healing for me. And I believe it allowed me to kind of release the past, and it didn't have to be the same as the past. I could be in the present, and I could use the tools that I have now to move through this, heal this, and create something different. And that was real time and actually very fresh, something that just went down that could have really thrown me off and really created that anxiety that can impact baby. And I'm not interested in that. So for anyone who can relate to that or has other circumstances coming up that you feel like could literally be compromising the health of your pregnancy, well, you have to put your foot down and pick up the app and just go into meditation. So I'm like getting emotional just thinking about it, just because it was very, it had potential to be very derailing, and it wasn't. So
that was just 2 days ago.
No, yeah, it was very fresh. So,
oh, thank you for sharing. I'm sending you love, and I'm just, I'm happy that we were able to support you, and just sending you all the best.
Yeah. And so I'm happy to continue to share this. You mentioned the code that we have with doing it at home, and I want to share that. And we're going to be putting it out there, and it'll be in the show notes and the links everywhere that people can find this episode. But when you go to expectful.com and you use the code DIAH 25 off, it'll give you 25% off an annual membership. So what a better time to start than right now, wherever you're at in your journey.
Not agree more. I hope that people can try it. And we really have built this for you.
Yeah.
And I know that it could benefit.
Yeah, absolutely. So expectful.com, super easy to find. There it is, just expectful.com. I'll include social media as well. And then anything else, those articles that you shared, Nathalie, I'm going to include those as well, because I'm sure people would like to check those out further. And any other way to connect with Expectful, ask questions, connect with the team, I'm sure they can do all of that through the website as well.
Sure. Yeah, you can. Or if you want to be a faster route, you can also just go to the App Store, either on Google Play or iTunes, and just download Expectful right there.
Great. Awesome.
And we're going to have links to everything, as Sarah mentioned. Links to all of it in the description.
Yes. And I look forward to more ways that we can connect and, doing it at home, and Expectful can collaborate together and share things in the community, because this is too good not to. It's too aligned.
Yeah, it's too great of a tool.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Nathalie. We really appreciate you and everyone at Expectful. And this has just been so awesome. Thanks for bringing a lot of empowering information and education to this topic.
Yes. Thank you, Nathalie.
Thank you. I'm so grateful for you both. Thank you.
Quick note about the Doing It at Home podcast. Matthew and I are not doctors or medical professionals, and nothing we say should be taken as medical advice or opinion. If you have medical or health-related questions, please take them to a trained professional. We're here simply to entertain you with stories and conversations about pregnancy, birth, and parenthood.